In the heart of Abuja, where luxury met legacy, there lived a man who was respected not just for his wealth, but for the power of his judgment. Chief Dominic Okafor, 62, wasn't just another billionaire with a fleet of cars and a name on every billboard. He was a man who built an empire with his mind, led with his heart, and watched the world through quiet eyes. But there was something he valued far more than his real estate ventures or international businesses: his son, Nathan Okafor, a brilliant 27-year-old final-year medical student studying abroad in Canada. Nathan was the kind of young man people whispered about with admiration. Tall, soft-spoken, with cinnamon-brown skin and a calm smile that made people trust him instantly. He had his father's wisdom, but more importantly his mother's heart. Chief Dominic sat in his home office that warm Thursday afternoon, swirling his cup of hibiscus tea, when his phone rang. It was a video call from Nathan. "Dad," Nathan greeted, his face lighting up on the screen. "My son." Chief Dominic beamed, his voice thick with pride. "Graduation is almost here, and I can already feel your mother smiling down from heaven." Nathan chuckled. "You always know how to make me emotional." Chief Dominic leaned back in his chair, his tone shifting. "Son, I want to remind you of something important, something you promised me." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Marriage, right?" "Exactly," Chief Dominic said, smiling knowingly. "You said, after graduation, you'd find someone to settle down with." Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. "I remember, but Dad, love isn't something I want to rush. I don't want a woman who's looking at my wallet. I want someone who sees me." Chief Dominic's eyes twinkled. "And that's where I might be able to help." Nathan blinked. "Help? How?" Chief Dominic leaned forward. "I've been watching two young women in our company, both hardworking, both well-educated, and both very beautiful in different ways. I'm not saying you have to marry either of them, but I'd like you to meet them. Just observe. You never know." Nathan narrowed his eyes playfully. "You're trying to play Cupid now?" "I'm not playing," the chief replied calmly. "I'm protecting you. But I promise I won't force anything. Just consider them. Their names are Amara and Kioma." Nathan sighed, then laughed. "All right, Dad, but let me come back first, one thing at a time." They said their goodbyes, and the call ended. But as Nathan placed his phone down, a thought crept into his mind. A bold, unusual thought. He whispered to himself, What if I don't come back as Nathan Okafor, son of Nigeria's most powerful man? What if I came back as just a worker, a nobody?" He stared out the window, the idea growing stronger. "Yeah, that's how I'll know if someone truly sees me, or just my last name." Meanwhile, back in Abuja, Chief Dominic was already setting the stage. The next morning, he summoned Amara, 25, into his office. She was the kind of woman who wore grace like perfume, subtle, genuine, and deeply felt. She walked in with a warm smile and greeted him gently. "Good morning, sir." Chief Dominic gestured for her to sit. "Amara," he began, folding his fingers, "you've worked here for 3 years now. You're intelligent, humble, and I've seen how you treat people with kindness. That's rare these days." She blushed, lowering her gaze. "Thank you, sir," he continued. "My son, Nathan, is coming home soon. He's finishing medical school, and I hope he'll settle down soon after. I believe someone like you could make a wonderful wife." Amara looked up, wide-eyed. "Don't be alarmed," Chief Dominic added quickly. "I'm not arranging anything. I just want you to be yourself when he arrives. If his heart finds its way to you, I'd be happy." Amara nodded slowly. "I understand, sir, and thank you for even considering me." Later that same day, he called in Kioma, 26, a confident, radiant woman who carried herself like she was born to own the world. Kioma strode in like she was entering a fashion show, her perfume trailing behind her like whispers of ambition. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice smooth and practiced. "Good morning, Kioma. Sit," Chief Dominic replied with a nod. He repeated the same conversation he had with Amara, but Kioma's reaction was different. "I'm honored, sir," she said quickly. "I've always dreamed of being part of a great family like yours. I promise you I won't disappoint." As she walked out, her eyes sparkled with ambition. "Soon," she whispered to herself, "this empire will be mine." Back in Canada, Nathan was packing his final suitcase when he looked at his reflection in the mirror. He placed a worn-out security uniform beside his designer suits and whispered, "Let's see who's real and who's just pretending." The test had begun. But no one, not Amara, not Kioma, and not even Chief Dominic himself, could predict how deeply the truth would cut, or how brightly love would shine. The sun burned high over Abuja as the black sedan pulled into the driveway of Chief Dominic's mansion. The gate slowly creaked open, and out stepped Nathan Okafor, but not as anyone had expected. Gone were the sharp suits and polished shoes. Gone was the aura of privilege and inheritance. Standing there now was a different man altogether, dressed in a faded navy blue security uniform, face partially hidden by a sun-worn cap, and old rubber sandals barely holding together. As he walked toward the staff quarters, no one recognized him. Not the gardeners, not the maids, and certainly not the company employees. He had become Daniel, the new gate security recruit. That morning, Chief Dominic watched his son from the mansion window with a mix of pride and nervousness. "This boy," he muttered, shaking his head with a smile, "has inherited both my wealth and my madness." By 7:45 a.m., Nathan, or rather Daniel, was standing at the main gate of Okafor Group of Companies, broom in hand, quietly sweeping leaves from the tiled entryway. He kept his head down, but his eyes were sharp. Every move, every face, every whisper, he was observing it all. Most of the staff walked past him like he was part of the pavement. But then she appeared. Amara. She wasn't in a designer suit or flashy makeup, just a simple blouse tucked into a knee-length skirt, her hair in a soft bun, and a smile that arrived before her words. "Good morning, sir," she said gently, almost as if speaking to someone important, not a gate man. Nathan blinked, caught off guard. "Good morning, ma'am," he replied, bowing slightly. And then she walked off, disappearing into the building like a quiet breeze. A few minutes later, a different presence approached. Loud heels, expensive perfume, swinging handbag. Kioma had arrived. She didn't look at him, didn't nod, didn't even seem to notice he existed. Nathan smiled to himself. "Interesting," he whispered. "The test has started." Over the next few days, patterns began to emerge. Kioma walked through the halls like a queen-in-waiting. She greeted no one below her rank, rolled her eyes at junior staff, and once even snapped at the office cleaner for walking too close to her purse. In the staff cafeteria, she told her friends loudly, "Very soon, some people here will have to call me Madam Chioma. When Chief's son proposes, I'll make sure the trash is taken out, starting with these gossipers." Her friends clapped and giggled, unaware of the man sweeping outside the window, hearing every word. Meanwhile, Amara remained unchanged. Kind. Quiet. Consistent. One hot afternoon, as Nathan was seated by the security booth, she walked over holding a bottle of cold water. "It's hot today," she said with a soft smile. "Here, please take this." Nathan looked at the bottle, then up at her face. He wasn't sure if the water or the moment melted him faster. "Thank you very much," he said, genuinely touched. "You're doing a good job," she replied and walked away. He held the bottle in his hand long after she had left, his heart a little less guarded. But it wasn't long before Kioma's pride turned venomous. One morning, she spotted Amara chatting with another staff near reception. She stormed over in her designer heels, flicked her hair, and interrupted them. "Amara," she said sweetly but with daggers in her voice, "can I have a word with you?" Amara followed her outside. "You don't have to keep pretending," Kioma snapped once they were alone. "We both know Chief spoke to us about his son. But let's be real, you're not in my league. I'm prettier, classier, and better dressed." Amara blinked, then said calmly, "I'm not in competition with you, Kioma. You can have him if he chooses you. I just want peace." Kioma smirked. "Good. At least you know your place." But as Amara turned to walk away, she added, "One more thing. Don't be too sure of yourself. We don't even know if he'll choose either of us, or someone completely different." Kioma hissed loudly, "He'll choose me. Why wouldn't he? I'm everything a rich man wants." Behind a nearby pillar, Nathan heard every word, and his heart had already made its decision. Later that week, Kioma's pride boiled over. She barged into HR one morning, stood on a chair, and clapped for attention. "Everyone, listen," she declared. "In case you don't know, I'm about to become Chief Dominic's daughter-in-law. So, all the nonsense and gossiping better stop. Because once I'm married into the family, a lot of you will be packing your bags." People stared in awkward silence. A few chuckled nervously. Nathan stood at the back entrance expressionless. But inside, he was disappointed. Not in her pride, he had expected that, but in her cruelty. That night, Chief Dominic sat with Nathan at home. "How's the drama going, my son?" he asked with a grin. Nathan removed his cap and laughed. "Dad, you wouldn't believe the things I've seen. Try me. Kioma is worse than we thought. And Amara is even more precious than I imagined." Chief Dominic nodded solemnly. "Your mother would have loved Amara. She has the kind of spirit that builds a home, not just a house." Nathan looked away, thinking, "I want to keep watching them, just a little longer." The chief smiled. "Then the stage is yours. But remember, truth doesn't hide forever. And when you reveal who you are, make sure it's as a man, not just a son." A week had passed, and the atmosphere inside Okafor Group of companies had started to shift. Not because of a new policy or sudden layoffs, no. It was the whispers, the looks, and the rumor that refused to die. Kioma is going to marry Chief Dominic's son. She didn't deny it. In fact, she fed it. Everywhere she went, heads turned, not from admiration, but from caution. Kioma had begun to walk like she already owned the place, and she made sure everyone noticed. But through it all, Amara remained the same. She came in early, worked quietly, smiled at the janitors, helped interns who didn't know how to format a report. She didn't wear flashy heels or luxury perfume. Her presence was gentle, but her kindness was magnetic. One afternoon in the company cafeteria, Kioma sat at her usual table with two of her close friends. Her voice, as always, was louder than necessary. "Some people in this company think being quiet and humble will get them a rich husband," she said, crossing her legs. "Newsflash, this is the real world. No man with sense wants a woman who disappears in the background." Her friends giggled. "Wait, are you talking about Amara?" one of them asked with a smirk. Kioma rolled her eyes dramatically. "Who else?" "Please. She's sweet, sure, but sweet doesn't get you a seat at the table." What Kioma didn't know was that Nathan, dressed in his worn-out security uniform, was standing just outside, sweeping slowly, overhearing every word through the open window. He didn't react. He just swept. But something in his heart shifted. Later that week, Amara was leaving the office when she spotted Kioma waiting near the hallway. "Amara," Kioma said sharply. Amara paused and smiled politely. "Yes?" "We both know what Chief said," Kioma began, arms crossed. "But let's be real. Between you and me, there's no competition." Amara blinked. "I didn't know we were competing." Kioma smirked. "Come on, I'm being honest. I'm more beautiful. I dress better. I know how to carry myself. You're nice. But that's not enough." Amara remained calm. "Maybe, but I don't believe I have to tear another woman down just to feel like I'm winning." Kioma scoffed. "Don't play holy. You and I both know I'm the better choice." Then Amara said something Kioma didn't expect. "We don't even know if Chief's son will choose either of us, or someone entirely different." Kioma hissed. "He will choose me. Why wouldn't he?" From behind a pillar, broom in hand, Nathan heard it all. And now, the contrast between the two women couldn't be clearer. That evening, Nathan returned home to find his father reading the newspaper on the veranda. "How's your undercover mission?" Chief Dominic asked, without looking up. Nathan chuckled. "Dad, you were right. You really do see people's true nature when they think you have nothing." "Oh?" the chief replied, lowering the paper. Nathan leaned against the railing. "Kioma is a storm waiting to happen. She's arrogant. She talks down to everyone. She actually told people she'll fire the gossipers after she marries me." Chief Dominic shook his head, visibly disappointed. "And Amara?" he asked. Nathan smiled. "She's different. She's kind for no reason. She offered me water on a hot day. She greets me every morning like I'm her equal. And the way she talks, it feels like she sees me." Chief Dominic nodded slowly. "Then you're beginning to see with your heart, not just your eyes." The next morning, Kioma strutted into the office like a celebrity. She waved at her colleagues, dropped her handbag on her desk, and called out, "Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all ready for a big announcement." Someone nearby asked, "What announcement?" Kioma smiled like she was about to accept an Oscar. "Well," she said, drawing out the word around the office is that Chief Dominic is finally stepping down. And we all know what that means." Her friends gasped. "Are you saying today is the day he announces his son?" "Maybe," Kioma said, raising her brows. "Let's just say I already have my outfit picked for the engagement party." Meanwhile, Amara sat quietly at her desk, working on a financial report. She wasn't part of the gossip. She never was. At exactly 9 a.m., the company's PA system crackled to life. "All staff, please report to the main conference room immediately. Chief Dominic has an important announcement." The entire office buzzed with whispers and footsteps as everyone filed into the room. The long glass table in the center gleamed under the soft lights. Anticipation filled the air. Kioma sat near the front, legs crossed, heart racing. She leaned over to her friend. "This is it." In the back, Nathan stood in his security uniform, quietly holding the door open. A moment later, Chief Dominic entered, dressed in his signature white agbada and red cap, walking stick tapping gently on the floor. He smiled warmly as the staff stood to greet him. "Good morning, my children," he said. "Please, sit down." The conference room was still echoing with Chief Dominic's last words when the staff slowly rose from their seats. Some whispered, others stared ahead, processing the unexpected announcement. "I will be stepping aside for a while," Chief had said, "and during that time my trusted associate, Mr. Raymond, will serve as the acting company representative." It wasn't the announcement they were expecting, but it was enough to cause a stir. Kioma, who had been sitting at the edge of her chair waiting to hear her name, or some dramatic reveal of the chief's son, was now visibly thrown off. She blinked, looked around, and plastered a fake smile on her face as she turned to her friend. "Well, maybe it's part of a bigger plan," she whispered. "Maybe this Raymond guy is just here to smooth things out before the real son arrives." Her friend leaned in, teasing. "Or maybe this Raymond guy is the plan. Did you see him? Tall, confident, well-spoken. Kioma tilted her head thoughtfully. Her disappointment quickly morphed into something else. Opportunity. Later that day, as the office settled back into its usual rhythm, a sleek black SUV pulled into the company parking lot. The door opened, and out stepped Mr. Raymond, well-dressed, polished, and moving with calm authority. His eyes scanned the compound, sharp but composed. Inside, employees stood a little straighter. Amara returned to her reports. But Kioma... She turned up the charm like a dial. As Raymond walked past her desk, she stood quickly. "Mr. Raymond," she purred, "I just wanted to say, you handled that announcement like a pro." He gave her a polite nod. "Thank you, Miss Kioma." "I love your tie," she added, placing a hand over her heart. "So elegant." Raymond offered a small smile. "Appreciate that." Then he kept walking. Kioma watched him go, her eyes narrowing. "Well, if Chief's son is taking his sweet time, Mr. Raymond will do for now." While Kioma schemed, something far more genuine was unfolding in the background. Nathan, still in disguise as the humble security guard Daniel, couldn't keep his eyes off Amara. Her quiet smile, her respect for everyone, especially for him, kept tugging at his heart. That evening, as most employees were leaving, Amara walked past the gate, where Nathan was standing at his post. He cleared his throat. "Amara," she turned, a little surprised. "Yes? Can I talk to you just for a minute?" She smiled gently. "Of course." They walked to a quiet corner near the security post, where the air was cooler and the noise from the street barely reached. Nathan looked nervous, more nervous than he had ever been in a medical school exam. "I know I don't have much," he began slowly, "and I may never be someone big or rich, but Amara, I really like you, a lot." Amara's eyes widened. "I've liked you from the moment you offered me water that day. The way you treat people, the way you carry yourself, it matters. You matter." He paused, waiting. Then she smiled, soft and honest. "I like you too, Daniel." Nathan blinked. "You do?" She nodded. "I've been waiting for you to say something. I didn't want to be too forward, but I've noticed you, and I admire you." Nathan felt a warmth rush through him. "But there's something we need to agree on," she added. "Let's keep this between us for now. You know how the office is, especially with Kioma around." Nathan chuckled. "You're right, she'd turn it into a morning news broadcast." They both laughed, and for a moment time stood still. In that quiet, tucked-away corner, something real had begun. Meanwhile, Kioma's plan was accelerating. The next morning, she walked confidently into the office, heels clicking, perfume trailing behind her, and stopped by Mr. Raymond's office. "Just thought I'd bring you this," she said, placing a coffee cup on his desk. "Helps start the day right." Raymond looked up, surprised. "Thanks. That's thoughtful." She leaned on the doorframe. "If you ever need help settling in, I know the company inside and out." Raymond gave her a neutral smile. "I appreciate that, Miss Kioma. I'll let you know." But even as he sipped the coffee, Raymond was watching her closely. He had been briefed by Chief Dominic himself. He wasn't just an interim rep, he was there to observe, to evaluate, and to report. And Kioma's intentions? They weren't hard to read. Back at the gate, Nathan and Amara had started a quiet ritual. Every morning, she'd greet him with a smile. Every lunch break, they'd exchange a small wave. And once in a while, a short note hidden inside a folded napkin. Their love was growing, secret, sweet, and strong. But in the shadows, Kioma was watching. One afternoon, she noticed Amara giggling at the front gate. She frowned. Why is she always smiling at that guard? That evening, she cornered her cleaner. I want you to follow that new security guy. Something's going on between him and Amara. I want to know what it is. The cleaner hesitated. But madam, what if he sees me? Kioma hissed. Do you want money or not? The cleaner nodded quickly. Yes, madam, I'll do it. That night, the cleaner followed Nathan after work. She hid behind a small wall near the back gate and waited. What she saw shocked her. Nathan and Amara standing close, whispering, smiling. Then, they kissed. The cleaner gasped quietly and ran back. The next morning, Kioma was waiting. Well? She demanded. The cleaner leaned in. They're dating. I saw them kiss with my own eyes. Kioma's face twisted with rage. That witch, she spat. So that's her game, dating a nobody to get sympathy. She paced her office, fists clenched. You think you're smart, Amara? We'll see how smart you are when you're unemployed. Kioma couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them. Amara and that security guard, laughing, kissing, like they didn't have a care in the world. She really thinks she can win this game by pretending to be sweet and humble. Kioma hissed under her breath. Well, let's see how sweet she is without a job. The next morning, before the sun even reached the horizon, Kioma was already at the company gates. She walked past the guard booth, not even glancing at Nathan. Her heels struck the pavement like war drums. By 10 a.m., she stormed into Chief Dominic's office. Chief, she cried dramatically. Chief Dominic, who had been quietly reviewing a financial report, looked up calmly. Yes, Kioma? What's the matter? She crossed her arms and raised her chin. I have something urgent to report. It's about one of your employees, Amara. Dominic tilted his head slightly. What about her? She's dating the new security guy. Kioma blurted. I caught them, red-handed, hugging, kissing, behind the building. She's ruining the reputation of this company. Chief Dominic raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Kioma took it as encouragement and leaned in. And the worst part? That security guy has no respect. He talks back to staff, acts like he owns the place. You should fire them both. But the chief only smiled. Kioma, he said quietly, thank you for your concern. I'll handle it. Later that day, Amara was called into HR. She walked in expecting to sign a document, but instead, she found Kioma waiting inside like a cat guarding the door. Well, Kioma smirked. Didn't expect me, huh? Amara remained calm. What is this about? Oh, don't act innocent, Kioma snapped. I know about you and the security boy. I saw you. I have witnesses. You're finished. Amara tilted her head. Kioma, I don't answer to you. And I'm not ashamed of who I love. You should be, Kioma spat. He's a nobody, a gate man, and you think you'll still be considered for Chief's son after this? Girl, please. Then Amara stepped forward and whispered, Funny. You talk a lot for someone sneaking into Mr. Raymond's office every night. Kioma froze. I know what you've been doing, Amara continued. I've seen the late-night visits, the lipstick stains on his desk, so go ahead, report me. But just know, I won't go down alone. Kioma's face turned red with fury. You will regret this, she growled. Amara smiled softly. Only if I forget who I am. That evening, 2 phone calls went out. One to Kioma, one to Amara. Both were from Chief Dominic's personal assistant. The chief would like to see you at his house this Saturday at 11 a.m. Please come dressed appropriately. Kioma's heart jumped. This is it, she whispered. It's happening. The real son is back, and I'm about to meet my future husband. She danced around her room that night in a red silk dress she had already picked for the occasion. Meanwhile, Amara simply sighed and prayed. Whatever happens, let the truth come out. Saturday morning. Inside the grand Okafor mansion, sunlight spilled across polished floors and velvet drapes. Chief Dominic sat comfortably in his armchair, wearing his signature white egg bata and red cap. Beside him stood Nathan, but not in his guard uniform. Today, he wore a crisp designer suit, gold watch, and polished shoes. The disguise was gone. The truth was ready. "You nervous?" the chief asked with a smile. "A little," Nathan admitted, "but mostly excited." The gate opened. Amara arrived first, wearing a simple, elegant dress. Her natural beauty shined without effort. The housemaid led her in. "Good morning, sir," she greeted, bowing slightly. Chief Dominic stood and hugged her warmly. "Welcome, my dear." Nathan turned to face her. Amara's eyes widened in shock. "Nathan," she gasped. Wait, what?" He stepped forward and gently took her hand. "Amara, I'm not just a security guard. I'm Nathan Okafor, Chief's son." Amara covered her mouth. "You were him the whole time. I had to know who would love me without knowing who I really was," he said. "And you loved me as I was." Her eyes welled up with tears. "I don't even know what to say." "Then just say you're still with me." She nodded slowly. "Always." The chief beamed. "You passed the test, my daughter." But then, Kioma arrived. Loud heels, flashy makeup, tight red dress, attitude bigger than the front door. She strutted in like a queen claiming her throne. "Good morning, Daddy," she said sweetly. Chief Dominic forced a polite smile. "Welcome, Kioma. Please have a seat." Kioma sat down confidently until she saw Nathan. Her smile faded. She pointed. "Why is the security man sitting here, and why is he dressed like... Wait, what is going on?" Nathan stood and looked her in the eye. "I am Nathan Okafor, Chief's only son." Kioma's bag slipped from her lap. "What? You? That's not possible. You're just... I'm the same man you ignored, insulted, and looked down on," Nathan said calmly. "And now, the truth is out." She turned to Chief Dominic, panic rising in her voice. "Sir, please, this can't be. I didn't know. If I had known..." "That's the problem," the chief interrupted. "You only show respect when you think someone is important." Kioma dropped to her knees. "Please, forgive me. I was desperate. I thought he was nobody. And that's why," Nathan said gently but firmly, "you'll never be the one." Chief Dominic turned to the hallway. "Guard, please escort her to the gate." As Kioma was led out, she turned and screamed, "Amara, you witch! You stole him from me!" Amara shook her head softly. "No, Kioma, you lost him all by yourself." 1 week had passed since the truth shook the walls of the Okafor mansion. Kioma's screams, her pleas, her insults, they were now just memories carried by whispers in the company hallways. She had walked out of that house not as a future wife, but as a living lesson. Inside the mansion, though, peace had taken its place. And something beautiful was blooming, something real. Nathan and Amara had spent every day since growing even closer, but Chief Dominic had one more surprise up his sleeve. "It's time the world sees the woman my son chose," he told Nathan one morning over breakfast. "And it's time she knows what she truly means to you." Nathan nodded. "You're right, Dad. I want to propose." Not just in private, I want to honor her in front of everyone." The chief smiled, heart full. "Then let's give her the moment she deserves." Saturday evening, the Garden of Surprises guests began to arrive just after sunset. The backyard of Chief Dominic's estate had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Twinkling string lights, soft jazz playing in the background, and a canopy draped in white and gold. Roses lined the walkway. A sign at the entrance read, "Private celebration, staff only." To everyone else, it was just a formal dinner, but to Nathan, it was the moment. Amara arrived shortly after 7 p.m., wearing a graceful champagne-colored dress. She had no idea what was waiting for her. "Evening, ma'am," the guard said with a smile, holding the gate open. "Thank you," she replied, still unaware. Inside, colleagues from every department were gathered. People clapped as she entered, but she simply smiled and made her way toward the crowd. Then suddenly, the lights dimmed. The music stopped. And from behind the curtain, Nathan appeared, dressed in a sharp black suit, holding a single red rose. Gasps echoed through the crowd. He walked slowly toward her, every eye watching. Amara stood frozen. "Amara," he began, taking the mic, "the day I met you, I was nothing more than a man in a uniform. And yet, you saw me. You spoke to me. You brought me water on a hot day and kindness on days I didn't deserve it." He stepped closer. "You didn't love me for what I had. You loved me for who I was, and today, I want to honor that love." He dropped to one knee, opened a small velvet box, and revealed a shining diamond ring. "Amara, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes. She covered her mouth, completely overwhelmed. Then, through the tears and the laughter, she nodded. "Yes, yes, yes," she cried out. Cheers erupted. The garden, filled with clapping and joyful screams as Nathan stood, placed the ring on her finger, and pulled her into a tight, tearful embrace. Chief Dominic wiped a tear from his own eye and whispered to himself, "That's my son." But not everyone was celebrating. Just outside the gate, Kioma stood, wearing black sunglasses and a tight black dress, trying to act invisible. "They didn't invite me?" she whispered angrily. "After everything, I deserve to be in there." She tried to walk in casually, but 2 security guards stepped in front of her. "Sorry, miss," one said. "Private event." "I'm on the guest list," she lied. The other shook his head. "Your name's not here, and even if it was, Chief Dominic gave specific instructions. No entry." Kioma's jaw tightened. She looked past the gate, watching the celebration unfold. Amara and Nathan danced, surrounded by smiling faces, glowing lights, and everything she had wanted. Tears stung her eyes, but there was nothing she could do. She turned away and walked off into the night, alone. A new beginning. As the celebration continued, Nathan and Amara held hands and swayed to soft music. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the love between them only grew stronger. Under the canopy, lit by fairy lights, Amara looked up at Nathan. "I still can't believe this is real," she whispered. "It's real," he replied, "and this is just the beginning." They shared a kiss under the stars while Chief Dominic watched from the balcony above, his heart finally at peace. 1 year later. The wedding had been the event of the year, elegant, intimate, and bursting with joy. Amara was now Amara Okafor, and she didn't just marry into the family, she became part of its legacy. She managed one of the company branches with grace and humility. Her leadership was admired, her warmth respected. Nathan continued his medical career, but he made time for every family dinner, every late-night walk, and every bedtime story. Because just a few months after the wedding, the Okafor family grew again. They welcomed a baby boy, David, meaning beloved. And what about Kioma? Well, she discovered she was pregnant for Mr. Raymond. But when she went to his apartment to break the news, the guard at the gate told her coldly, "Madam, Mr. Raymond has moved to London with his wife and kids." Kioma stood there, stunned, alone, unemployed, unwanted, and now expecting. She sank to the sidewalk, tears in her eyes, hands on her belly. "I had a chance," she whispered, "and I threw it away. It was too late." Moral of the story. True love doesn't look at status. It listens to the heart. Pride builds walls, but kindness builds bridges. Don't chase titles, chase truth. Because one day, everything hidden will be revealed. And when that day comes, may your heart be clean, your hands be kind, and your story be worthy. One peaceful evening, nearly a year after the wedding, the Okafor estate glowed softly under a crimson sunset. Birds chirped in the trees, the wind whispered through the garden, and laughter echoed faintly from the backyard. Inside the mansion, Chief Dominic Okafor sat on the front porch, a worn book in one hand, a glass of orange juice in the other. But his eyes weren't on the pages. They were on the small family playing on the lawn. Nathan sat on a blanket with Amara, bouncing a chubby, giggling baby boy on his knee. "Easy there, David," Nathan laughed. "You're getting strong." Amara leaned against his shoulder, her eyes filled with contentment. "Just like his father." Chief Dominic smiled from a distance. This, he thought, is legacy. Not buildings, not money, but love, honest, enduring love. Inside the Okafor Group headquarters, things had changed too. Amara now managed an entire division. Not because she married into the family, but because her leadership proved itself. She was firm but fair, confident yet compassionate. Staff admired her, clients respected her, and unlike others before her, she never used power to put others down. Nathan continued his medical practice part-time while mentoring youth in rural clinics across Nigeria. He had found balance, not between status and humility, but between who he was and who he wanted to remain. Meanwhile, far away from the lights of success and peace, Kioma lived a very different reality. She stayed in a one-room apartment on the outskirts of town, sharing space with regret and silence. The mirror no longer flattered her with admiration. It only reflected choices she couldn't undo. She had applied to dozens of jobs. None called back. The father of her child? Gone. And even when her son cried for hours at night, there was no one to share the burden with. She often sat by the window whispering to herself, "If I had just been kinder. If I hadn't chased after names and titles. If I had just loved someone before I judged them." But "if" was a word that came too late. Back at the mansion, Chief Dominic called Nathan and Amara inside. "I've been thinking a lot," he said as they sat with him, "about everything that's happened, about the tests, the masks, the truth." He leaned forward, voice soft and steady. "You both reminded me of something I forgot long ago. The worth of a person is never found in their wealth, but in how they treat those with nothing to offer them." Amara smiled. "That's the same lesson Nathan taught me, by being someone he wasn't." Nathan took Amara's hand and turned to his father. "You gave me the freedom to learn, Dad. Most fathers would have chosen their son's wife for him. You let me find mine, with my own eyes." The chief nodded slowly. "And I'd do it all again." He looked at his grandson, now peacefully asleep in Amara's arms. "Because I wanted my legacy to live in more than buildings. I wanted it to live in hearts like yours." That weekend, the Okafors hosted a charity fundraiser in the same garden where Nathan had proposed. This time, the event wasn't about titles or inheritance. It was about raising funds to support young girls' education, under a new foundation named the Amara Initiative for those who see beyond status. As Nathan stepped on stage to speak, his voice trembled slightly. "Some people think wealth is measured in money," he began, "but true wealth is how many people remember your name with gratitude, not fear." He turned to Amara in the crowd. "And the greatest decision of my life wasn't building a company or earning a degree. It was loving a woman who saw me before anyone else did." The crowd stood in applause. And so, the story comes full circle, from disguise to discovery, from pride to peace, from pretending to belonging. The lessons? The one who seeks gold may miss the diamond. The loudest voice isn't always the wisest heart. And real love, humble, faithful, true, needs no disguise. Final scene. Late at night, as the stars twinkled above and the estate grew quiet, Amara stood at the balcony, holding David in her arms. Nathan stepped behind her and wrapped his arms around them both. She turned to him and smiled. "After everything we've been through," she whispered, "do you think it was all worth it?" Nathan kissed her forehead. "Every second," he said, "because I didn't just find love, Amara, I found you." Life lesson: the value of what's unseen. Sometimes the greatest truths about people aren't revealed in moments of success, but in moments when there's nothing to gain. Nathan disguised himself not because he wanted to trick anyone, but because he wanted to see clearly. In a world where status, money, and appearances speak louder than character, he chose to strip all that away just to find something real. And in doing so, he uncovered a timeless truth. How someone treats a person with nothing to offer tells you everything about who they really are. Amara didn't know she was falling in love with a billionaire's son. She saw a kind man doing a humble job and still chose to honor him with kindness and respect. That choice changed her life forever. Kioma, on the other hand, chased status, power, and appearance. But in chasing those things, she lost the one thing that matters most: integrity. This story reminds us that kindness is never wasted, even when no one is watching. Pride can build castles, but humility builds homes. And most importantly, the heart always speaks louder than wealth. So if you ever feel unseen, unrecognized, or underestimated, don't change to impress the world. Stay true to who you are, because the right people will see your light, even in your simplest form, and when they do, that's real love